What significance does modern science have to offer us as a species? If we have significance to God or the causative force as individuals, then we must have significance as a species. Individual brain cells have significance to the body. As a group of brain cells working together, they may not make up the whole brain, but they act together to fulfill a purpose. As a group, they may form parts of the brain such as the medulla oblongata, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, a particular wrinkle on the surface of the brain. The possibilities are enormous. We as a species may have a unique function for the causative force. We may not understand just what the particular function is at this point in time, but we can be certain that if we are a part of the causative force, or God, we have some function, and that in itself is a greater significance for our existence than we had ever before dreamed possible. As a species, as individuals, being a part of the causative force, God, raises our level of significance over what we had before. Although this is an exciting possibility, it also should be a sobering thought. With an increase in significance of this magnitude comes an equally significant increase in responsibility. Now, we would have a responsibility to ourselves, for we would be part of the causative force herself, and she, he, it, would be a part of us. Now, we would have a responsibility to each other, because those around us would be seen to be pieces of the causative force. Now, we would have a responsibility to the causative force because we are part of her. We would now understand that we do impact the causative force, and which in turn impacts our eternity. Science opens up some heavy responsibility for our species. Is it possible to begin in terms of what our function in such a situation might be? If so, the key might well lie in the understanding of history and where it shows we have been heading. Some people would say it indicates we are a ruthless group. Although history has confirmed our ruthlessness, it also shows a trend. We as a species have been heading in the direction of elevating the significance of the individual, the soul. The value we place on the individual. Perhaps our purpose is to provide significance to all souls. Perhaps our purpose is to provide the understanding of the journey of life itself and the reason it needs to be protected. Perhaps we're to be the conscience of the causative force herself. Perhaps. What significance does science have to offer other life forms in the universe, particularly modern science? If we as a species have significance to God, the causative force, much as a part of the brain has significance to the whole person, then perhaps the sum of souls traveling throughout the universe has the same significance to the causative force that our brain has to us. Science, by eliminating the idea that we are not the center of the universe, opens up the possibility that we are not the center of attention of the causative force. This has many implications. Examining science by itself does not give us a very good picture of all the implications when we had the ideas of religion and philosophy to science. However, some interesting possibilities open up for us as a species. These ideas become so broad in scope that they actually engulf all life forms in the universe. These ideas are so broad in scope, they even embrace life forms in other universes, should we find that they exist. Religion gives us Hinduism. A causative force exists. The soul exists. The soul is eternal. Buddhism, suffering of the soul is not to be tolerated. Christianity, we are to love one another. Islam, take your life seriously, for justice will be part of eternity. Ontology, a causative force is logical, even without believing through faith. And modern science, we are not the center. Do not ignore what we see. All these ideas point towards an all-present causative force. An all-present causative force would leave nowhere else for our universe to be put within this causative force. You being within the universe and thus within the causative force would imply you're a part or an emanation or an aspect of the causative force or God. If the causative force were as powerful as religion's state and powerful enough to create a universe out of nothingness, as the scientific idea of symmetry implies, then you begin within the causative force. You being part of the causative force would imply this is so for a reason. You, I, all life forms together have a purpose in reality. Some say we are too lowly an entity to reason out as an important idea as purpose, but if we're a part of God, the causative force, we are not lowly, and if we can accept we have no significance to the causative force, why can't we accept that we may have maximal significance to the causative force or God?